Oh, hello again, rabid internet fan base. Welcome back, everybody, to the Hemingway Land YouTube channel. Missed you guys last week. Did not do a weekly video last week. Meant to discuss the bulk acquisition, the rollout that we did of those 150 new listings last week, which we have been working on for the better part of a year, 11 months to be precise. Regrettably, however, we produced so much additional supplemental material, we will say, for the Rio Del Oro subdivision that did not get the opportunity to also do a weekly video last week. Not, however, from a lack of trying, I assure you. We worked on those listings, we worked on those videos for the better part of 3 weeks. Realistically, we needed about 4. I thought it would only take 2. Perhaps that gives you a sense of exactly how involved it was. Whatever the case, it was my intention last week to do a video where we discussed, number one, why it took so GD long, we will say, to get all these properties, to acquire them and then to list them, and also to kind of profile, if you will, some of the premier real estate within the region, some of the top listings. So I will table the stories until some other video at the risk of making this go on too long. And instead this week we will just kind of talk about some of those premier properties from last week, just to kind of profile them, guys, just to kind of give them the extra nudge, bring them to your attention, put them in front of you, because they are really good listings. Additionally, do want to say, before we get to that, I want to thank everybody who left positive feedback, comments in the YouTube, which we don't get a lot of comments on the YouTube videos, so I appreciate that, number one. And all the people who called and emailed with compliments about the video. Some of you actually watched the thing. I was surprised. It's very long, guys. I didn't think it would time out that long, but it did, and you guys watched it and left good comments, so I very much appreciate that. Anyway, with all that said, guys, we're going to profile some of the premier listings from last week in a segment I'm calling Rio Del Oro, Rio Del Recap. Here we go, guys. So, Rio Del Oro is a subdivision I have been avoiding buying in for a number of years. Hemingway, why? Well, as was covered in the video from last week, the entire subdivision consists of quarter-acre lots, and unless you have 3/4 of an acre out here, you can't develop the property. And, of course, it is very, very difficult to come across 3 adjacent lots totaling the coveted 3/4 of an acre. Additionally, guys, while the smaller parcels may be desirable for someone looking for seasonal camping property, unless the land has some other application, like, say, investment property, really doesn't make sense to try and sell land out here. So, when we got a call last October from someone with 410 parcels asking if we want to take a look at them, we said yes, but I wasn't expecting much. Then, however, as we began to review the inventory, we found they had, number one, a large collection of adjacent lots totaling, in most cases, a minimum of 3/4 of an acre, and the remaining single and double lots were on the western end of the sub in what we have taken to calling the path of development. In other words, desirable locations. Point being, the entire inventory basically checked all the boxes I assumed they would never check, and so after what ended up being about 9 months back and forth, we finally purchased and took title on the entire portfolio this past July. And this is something I am very excited about, not only because I genuinely believe that these are all good and or desirable properties, but also because it gives us basically what I'm calling a stranglehold on the subdivision for probably the next 2 years at least. Additionally, I will confess that when we start to specialize in a region like this in the way that we are, we tend to get a lot of unsolicited calls from people wanting to sell their land. So in all likelihood, we will have a revolving door of inventory here for the foreseeable future. Whatever the case, the inventory we have recently acquired breaks down as follows, guys. So 74 quarter-acre lots starting at $999. Those are single lots. We've got 24 half-acre properties, which are basically double lots, starting at $2,400. 25 3/4 acre properties. These are what we're calling the buildable lots, starting at $3,750. 17 1-acre properties starting at $5,000. And then a list of some of the larger acreage, 5 1/4 acre properties starting at $6,250. 1 1.5 acre property priced at $7,500. 1 1.75, that's slightly less than 2 acres, priced at $8,750. A 2-acre property priced at $9,900. A 2.5 acre property priced at $13,750, and a 3-acre property priced at $15,000. And of course, guys, affordable financing options are being offered on everything between a 1/2 and 1.5 acres in size. Now, if you haven't seen it yet, we produced a 44-minute video last week, which I'm calling a distillation of all human knowledge on the topic of Rio Del Oro. It is long, it is comprehensive, it is probably a little boring, and it has been posted at the top of every one of the 150 listing pages in this subdivision. So what I'm about to do will be less a discussion of the region, because we can learn about that in the other video, but will instead be the thing I didn't get to do last week, which is more so a run-through of what I'll call the top 15 choice selections within this inventory. The top 15 properties worth taking a look at. And as always, guys, whatever properties I mention here will also be linked below this video here on YouTube. And it's also worth noting that before I get started, I keep saying 150. Truth be told, our photographer got about 80% of the work done, then had to rush home for a family emergency. So the remaining properties, which are only about 14 listings, they're currently being shot and will be added to the website probably sometime in October. It's pretty much everything in Zone 7 and Zone 8. If you saw the zone map we created last week, they're all in that region. As well as, I should mention, a few of the larger lots in Zone 5. Anyway, with all that out of the way, let's get to the list. Top 15 properties from most expensive to least. Here we go. So this first one is located in what we're calling Zone 3. It is 2 acres, or a combination of 8 adjacent lots with good road access along both its northern and southern boundaries. That's Placido Boulevard and Raton Ave, respectively. And while this property, like most of the listings out here, does not have utilities at the lot line or terribly close, if we pull back on the map here, you can see that it does sit within the path of encroaching development, as it is about 1 mile from the Las Maravillas community, as well as about a mile south of Valencia High School. Go Jaguars. And it should be noted, guys, that because this is one of the larger, more expensive properties, the photos you're seeing here are from the property itself. Next up, this next one is located in what we're calling Zone 1. It is 1.35 acres in size, or a combination of 5 adjacent lots, and it sits just off the Manzano Expressway, which means it sits in very close proximity of both a major paved road as well as utilities. Additionally, as you can see from the photos, there is a residential home site that has been developed up the street from here. And once again, if we go to Google Maps and pull back a bit, you can see that this one sits just south of the communities being developed up here, which means it's reasonable to expect that property values here will likely be increasing over the next few years. Next, our third property sits in what we're calling Zone 4, with development so close to the land you can reach out and touch it. This one is a 1.25 acre property, which is also a combination of 5 adjacent parcels, including a Cul De Sac lot. And if we go to the drone overlays here, you can see that this collection of properties sits just south of Monterey Boulevard, with a number of developed home sites with utilities to both its north and west, roughly about 700 feet away. Additionally, it is easily accessible from up here on Monterey. And it should be noted, guys, that this is the northernmost part of the Rio Del Oro subdivision, meaning the homes you see here to the west are ones all sitting on land that some developer was able to recombine and turn into a formal housing development, as I discussed in my Rio Del Oro magnum opus video. And the land north of Monterey is where a new subdivision, I believe called Monterey Park, formally begins. Point being, guys, it's a good collection of lots in a developing region, ideal for building or buy and hold investment. Next up, we journey back to Zone 3 for our next listing. This one is another 1.25 acre property, which is another combination of 5 adjacent lots, located not quite as close to development as that last Zone 3 listing we showed you, but if we look at the photos, we can see that residential power lines are actually closer to this one, being only 1,800 feet removed. And it should be noted as we go to the map that 1,800 feet west of the property is the Manzano Expressway, as well as more encroaching development to the southwest. And once again, it should be noted that the home sites you see down here are yet another example of a developer recombining a bunch of vacant lots within Rio Del Oro for more structured and formal development. In fact, if we take the little guy on Google Maps and drop him on the road here for street view, you can see that these are actually pretty nice little homes. They've got city utilities, as we can tell from the presence of the fire hydrants, and more to the point, it's not some junky community of half-built graffitied shacks. And I say that, guys, not only to communicate the point that the zoning here is such that it creates more high-end developments, but also to express the point that unlike some areas of Valencia County, there is a greater pride of ownership here. Point being, with the subject property not too far away, it makes another one ideal for either development or buy and hold investment. Moving on to our fifth property. This one is also in Zone 3, located relatively close to that last one, and this one is a 1.18 acre property, which is a combination of 4 adjacent lots. Now, on this one, you've got basically the same situation with roads and lack of utilities, but this one is unique because if we go to the plat map on this, you will see that this actually is an interesting combination of Cul De Sac lots. Now, for the record, guys, we listed them this way as opposed to 2 separate smaller listings because I assume that anyone who wants the first 3 lots would also want the 4th. Maybe not, in which case you can resell it, but in my estimation, it's more valuable this way as a double cul-de-sac with 2 access points. Particularly, again, in this area where so many developers are trying to recombine adjacent lots. Next up, we journey now to Zone 5 for this 1-acre property, which is a combination of 3 adjacent larger lots situated just south of the Rio Del Oro Loop. And this one is notable because being located as close as it is to the main road, the access is still pretty good here, number one. And number two, the property is actually a larger Cul De Sac lot with access both along Sierra Loop on the outside and Zia Lane on the inside. Point being, it's a unique formation, and you don't see it much in the plat of this region. Next up, we're back in Zone 1 with this 3/4 acre property, which is a combination of 3 adjacent lots, all located just west of the Manzano Parkway. This, of course, is notable because it means they are also located just west of power lines, suggesting that this may be an easier collection of land to get connected to the grid. And for those of you wondering, distance between the subject property and the power lines is a mere 700 feet. Additionally, guys, because this is Zone 1, it once again puts you in the path of encroaching development. Moving on. So this next batch of properties are less than 3/4 of an acre, meaning they would not be defined as buildable lots, but they are ideal as either investment properties or for recreational use. And mind you, guys, of the 150 new listings, at least half are lots which can be developed, can be built on. I am merely highlighting some of the ones that are not, simply because I believe they're in such a good location. And if you don't mind, I'm going to deviate from the format here for a bit and take these in order of zone rather than price. So starting off, we're going to go to Zone 6, where we have this 1/4 acre lot, which is located here along Camino de Paz, just north of the Rio Del Oro Loop, but more specifically in very close proximity of Valencia High School and a couple of the standalone developed home sites you see here, here, and here. Point being, this one has got paved road access, utilities within 450 feet, and is, once again, within the path of development. Next, we're going to show you some lots in Zone 4, more specifically these 2 single lot listings, which sit just off Rio Del Oro Loop. The first property is the 52N Like Nancy listing, a standard square-shaped 1/4 acre parcel, and just up the road from it is 52Q, which is the less than standard rectangular-shaped parcel you see here. Now, again, guys, I'm pointing these out specifically as potential recreation properties because they are so easily accessible. As we covered in the much longer video of this region, you find a lot of roads out here which vary in quality and condition from this to this to this. Located as they are right off Rio Del Oro, however, means these parcels are accessed off a paved main arterial, which can be navigated easily by, say, an RV. And I got to tell you guys, coming up as we are on the annual Balloon Fiesta, which sees about 500,000 visitors come to Albuquerque each year and jack up hotel rates for 2 weeks, I think having a small chunk of land like this just south of the city is a nice thing to have and can be very convenient during times like this. Moving on to Zone 2, we've got these 2 properties, both in very close proximity of Valencia Middle School, one located here and the other over here. And what's notable about these 2 is not only their proximity to the school, but if we zoom out a little on the map, we will see that this is an area which is developing rapidly with a number of developed communities all around it. Point being, very good investment properties. In addition, also in Zone 2, we have this one, a 1/2 acre property or 2 adjacent lots located just off the Rio Del Oro Loop and thus within about 500 feet of power. And again, guys, if we zoom back on the map, you will see all the encroaching development that surrounds this one as well. On to our next one, this 1/4 acre lot located along the paved Chacon Boulevard and sandwiched between all the development you see here to the east, as well as the University of New Mexico campus you see over here to the west. Point being, another great investment property ideally located in an area sure to be built up over the coming years. Now, before we wrap up here, let me just go over a couple final details, guys. First off, if I went too fast through all that, or if there's some important points I didn't address, such as what are these zones I keep referring to, or what's the deal with the zoning, or can I build this, or why am I saying something is a good investment property, all of those questions can be answered by watching the video at the top of each of these properties' respective listing pages. I went through it quickly here because I'm working under the possibly misguided assumption that anyone interested in this has already watched that. If you haven't, however, I promise it's very informative. Long and boring, but also, guys, informative, okay? That's number 1. Number 2, in an effort to make these listings a little easier to navigate, we updated the website in the following way. So when you go to Valencia County now, instead of having 150 Rio Del Oro listings displayed one after another on top of 30-some Rio Grande Estates listings, instead what we've done is we've removed them from the New Mexico page, and they can all now be accessed through the subdivision master information page here. So if you go here, click on this, It'll bring up that page, and if you scroll down a little bit, you'll find the entire inventory of properties organized by reference number, legal description, acres, and price. And if you have any question about how best to decipher all this information, oh my God, guys, check this out. You'll be glad to know that we also have a much shorter but equally informative video at the top of this page, which kind of walks you through all that. Additionally, guys, as with all these subdivisions where we buy a couple hundred lots a year, down here we've got a link to the Google Sheet version of this list, which, believe it or not, has even more detail, including notations about zones, links to plat maps, notes on road access, power, any additional features the property might have, and even links where you can purchase the property. And it should be noted, guys, if you are interested in this region and you watch that video and then go to this spreadsheet, you should be able to find your ideal property pretty quickly. And one final thing to note here, guys, if you are going to view this spreadsheet, there's a lot of detail here, so maybe, guys, maybe view it on a screen larger than your thumbnail, okay? We get a lot of calls from people trying to look at this on their smartphone. We get a lot of calls from people trying to look at it on their smartphone while they're driving, which I understand even less. Point being, don't be that guy, okay? First off, you're going to go blind, but more importantly, you're going to miss key details, guys. Key details. So again, this spreadsheet, really good resource, but only if you're viewing it on a monitor, which you can actually, see things, okay? So PC, laptop, maybe a tablet, but please, whatever you do, guys, don't use a smartphone, okay? Finally, guys, it's worth noting that we also have 5 new listings going live this week, all of those in Taos County, more specifically in the off-the-grid, zoning so lax it borders on different subdivisions you all know so well and love so much. And because you are all hip to the details, and because I hold the record for person on the internet who has spoken about these regions more than anyone else, I will simply say that the 5 new listings going live this week break down as follows. 1 new listing, guys, in Tres Piedras Estates. It's a quarter-acre lot priced, as usual, at the affordable $900. We got 1 new listing in Ranchos de Taos Estates, also a quarter-acre lot, also priced at $900. And not 1, not 2, but 3 new listings in Carson Estates, all quarter-acre lots priced, again, at $900. And no, guys, these cannot be combined. They are spread all throughout the subdivision, to and fro. Not adjacent, not adjacent. And as always, people, these are RV-friendly lots where you can camp for indiscriminate periods of time or develop the types of unconventional structures difficult to get permitted elsewhere, such as tiny homes, yurts, shipping containers, so on and the like. With all that said, we will have a new property debuting next week, but we're going to give our overworked video editor some time off, so we will see you back here in 2 weeks with another fantastic property in Colorado. In the meantime, guys, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, whatever are you waiting for? Please do, guys, please do. Or at the very least, if you like the videos, like hearing about land, or just think they're a good time killer at work, give us a like, share them with your friends, help other people fulfill their dreams of land ownership, or their dreams of wasting more time at work. We'll take either, guys. We'll take either. With all that said, have a great 2 weeks, everybody, and we'll see you back here in our next video.